Hey, what's up guys? Sloth King here. Today I'm going to be working on the Supra for a little bit. I have like a handful of things I'm going to be doing, but I'm only going to be covering like one major thing, and then I'll be lightly touching on a couple of the things. So I picked up this Autometer gauge pod. Now, on the website, it says it's for a 89 Integra or something like that, but it also listed that it works for Supra. So I'm going to check the fitment on that, because if you look at it, it looks pretty good. It's not bad. Texture is decent. It is black. If it fits properly, I will be painting it the gray interior color to match. But I figured I would pick this up since there was another dual gauge pod that this other company used to sell for the Supra, and it retained your grab handle, and I really want one of those because I don't want a triple gauge pod. I have no need for that, and I prefer to have that factory handle in there. It's just my preference. With that being said, I will check fitment later in the video. I did pick up a gauge though. I picked up an AEM gauge, and this is their X series. So this is an oil pressure gauge. It is really thin. It's I think it's like 3/4 of an inch thick, or in depth, so it's pretty nice. I picked that up because I wasn't too sure how the stock oil gauge is in there. I'm pretty sure it's off. I'm going to be installing that. That's gonna be the primary thing in this video. And I picked up this adapter for the oil pressure sensor because I do want to retain my factory one, at least for now, and I want to see how accurate it is compared to the AEM gauge. So that's going to be a fun comparison later on. So let me show you what else I'm going to be doing on the Supra. So I got to take off the turbo. I have a oil leak on the return line coming off of the turbo. While I'm in there, I thought to myself, I'm like, well, the turbo's out of the way, I'm gonna have a lot more room for me to go in there and then put that adapter on, and then put the new sensor on for the oil pressure gauge. So I've been waiting for everything to come in, and I'm going to be tackling that today. So the major thing is that I have to repair is the oil drain on the turbo. I'm going to be installing the AEM gauge, and then I have a power steering pump leak. I'm going to be lightly touching on that. I'm not going to dwell on it for the whole video, and I'm going to tell you something that I completely did that was just dumb. But you'll see that later on in the video. So I think that covers what I'm going to be doing today. I doubt I'm going to have enough daylight to get everything done, because taking off the turbo, it's going to be a pain in the butt, just because my exhaust situation right now. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure I made this intro long enough. I'm going to take everything off, and then we'll get to the more important things, because you guys don't need to see me take everything off. Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, so like I said before, I have to take off the turbo. So I got to take off my downpipe. I got to unbolt it from my cat. After that, I got to take off this intake tubing, accordion hose, and mass airflow sensor. You know, of course, you have your coolant drain, which is right here for the turbo, or inlet, and then you have the return. And then all this junk up here has to all come off. It's tedious, but it's doable. I do have to take off the dipstick, which it literally just sits in there, but it's bolted down right on here. Once all of this is out of the way, I do have to take off my power steering pump, like I said before, and I'll show you the reason why. That's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but since I have to take everything else off, I'm going to do this all in one shot. That way I don't have to touch any of this ever again. Well, until something breaks. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Figured I'd just lightly cover what you have to take off for those of you that don't know. And yeah, I will update you guys whenever the major stuff comes off. All right, so I'm at the point that I'm about to pull this turbo out. All I have to do is undo this coolant line, so hopefully a lot of coolant doesn't just spray out. That would suck. Oh, there it goes. Oh, yep. Oh, I'm missing the mark. Shit. Oh wow, that's a lot of coolant. I did not realize there's gonna be that much coming out. I forgot that that's in line with the rest of the system. That sucks. I'm gonna try to plug it with something. I have a bolt somewhere. Maybe I can plug it with this. All right, let's give it a try. Oh, no, no, stop. Stop that. Stop it. There you go. Wow, that's annoying. Let's take off this turbo and then I'll deal with putting a clamp around that thing so it stops leaking. Oh, I'm dumb. The return line's still bolted in. All right, give me a second, guys. All right, apologize about the lack of light, but the oil drain with the banjo bolt, I finally just got off. It was such a pain in the butt to try to get down there to access it. There's a banjo bolt, and I'm pretty sure the other side of the copper crush washer is gonna fall off, but now the turbo should come out now. There we go. And yeah, that paint did not hold up at all. That sucks. I have a feeling I will have to take this off in the future, but I don't care about that right now. And my issue lies... Oh. Whoops, did not mean to do that. But here on my turbo drain, let's see. It was leaking at this gasket. Oh, I don't want to scrape that. It was leaking like right down here. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to put the Toyota seal packing on it. That should hopefully fix that issue for the oil drain leaking. I hope I don't have like a crack in the tube at all. So I made quite the mess in there, which I was semi-anticipating. I do have a work light that's in my trunk, so I might spend like another hour here just taking off that power steering pump. And then I'll pick up tomorrow installing everything else back in, including the AEM oil pressure sensor. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, guys, I got the power steering pump off. So it was leaking and there's a gasket right here. So this is the dumb thing that I did. I didn't want to take this whole thing off when the car was running. So I put the Toyota FIPG in there and it did not help it stop leaking. So I'm gonna have to scrape all that off and then put the new gasket in there. So that's the dumb thing that I did. So I'm gonna do that and then reinstall the pump. All right, so this is the issue I'm having. There's a snap ring in here that's holding this piece down, but I don't think they installed it correctly because I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to happen. And by the way, the silicone I put on here is actually easier to take off than I was imagining. So there's a snap ring. I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be a gasket in here. Okay, so I think that's like a relief valve. I don't think they put it on properly. Like I said, I'm not gonna cover the whole thing, but figured I'd just mention it in here. So I'm gonna replace that and hopefully I can keep that thing from not leaking. Hey, what's up guys? Sloth King here. It is day 2 of working on the Supra. So last night I did a few things off camera because there's no light in the storage unit, and I gave you an update of the power steering pump. I took out that plug and there's this little O-ring that was on it and it looked like it was just squished. Like they when I sent it out to get rebuilt, like they never replaced that O-ring, so it looked pretty old. So what I did, I took that off, put the new one on, put that little plunger thing back in, and then put the snap ring in. I have the power steering pump back on there. All the lines are in, and I do have it filled with power steering fluid. So we'll see if that leaks whenever I start it up. But back to the main topic. On the turbo, I put the drain plug back on, or the drain tube, because it was leaking oil around here. So what I did, I scraped off the old gasket and I put the Toyota FIPG sealant on there, and I made sure that the oil feed going up into the turbo is not blocked off. So hopefully that fixes that oil leak that I had on the block. You'll see right down here, right there, I'm gonna replace that paper gasket, and I'm just gonna put that FIPG on there. And then for the last thing today, right here, that is my oil pressure sensor. So I'm gonna take that off, and then I'm going to put this adapter on, which I'll show you right now. So here's the adapter. It'll go into the original spot. There's a port here for my new sensor, and then here's the original sensor port. This is a different thread type than this one. So I'm gonna put that in its place because it's been acting out. So yeah, once I get that on, I'll put that AEM sensor on that this adapter thing, and then I'll be able to plug in the wires and figure out how to run the loom that they supplied. So hopefully it's long enough so I can pipe it through this fitting right here where my engine harness goes through. If not, then I don't know. I'll figure something out. But anyway, let's get into it. All right, guys. So there's my oil pressure sensor, sending unit, whatever you want to call it. I'm so glad that I did not crank this thing down when I was putting everything together. For this aftermarket one, it is a 14 millimeter that's on the back. You'll see like a nut that's on the back of that thing. And there's like, as you can see, there's zero room to work in here. So if you get your stubby wrench and you just go underneath everything, you can make it work, which I already cracked it loose because I wasn't sure if I would have any kind of issues. It's a pain, so take your time, and it's really hard to film since there's no place to put the camera. Oh, cool. All right, so I did run into an issue. Let me show you guys. This is the AEM sensor. So it's supposed to fit in here, but it doesn't go past like 1 or 2 threads. I think this might be the same thread pitch, I hope. Okay, so that fits in there just fine. All right, guys, I'm back. After all of that agonizing time that I spent a little bit going back to the house. I found out the adapter that I ordered from Amazon, they sent me the wrong one with the wrong port on the side for the 7M, and I believe the JZ is the same way. With the oil pressure sensor, it is 1/8 inch BSPT. Well, your AEM oil pressure sensor, this is an 1/8 inch NPT. It won't fit in the block either way. So if you order this, you need to get an adapter that is the male 1/8 inch BSPT to a female 1/8 inch NPT. So I just ordered a new T off of Amazon. It's going to be here in a few days. So we'll pick up with the gauge on that note later on. But I guess in the meantime, I'm good to throw the turbo back on and then get everything situated, because I should still have some proper room to fit my hand in there and then put the adapter in. I'm just going to do that today. This is aggravating. This is turning into a 3-day thing, guys. Hey, what's up, guys? Sloth King here. Today is day 3 of working on the Supra. So, as you guys know, day 2 was a bust. Today, I don't have much daylight out. I don't have the other T in. So, what I figured I would do, I'm gonna run my sensor cable for the oil pressure sensor. I'm gonna figure out which way I'm gonna put it into the car and if I need to extend it at all. So I got some extra wire with me just in case. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna run some lights in here. First, I'm gonna do the run myself, and then I'll show you guys which way I routed it, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So let's get into it. So what I'm doing right here, now that I have my wire brought through the car, so I taped the connector end onto my boost controller hose. I really hope you can see it. It's super dark in here, I'm sorry. So I taped it on there. There's my boost controller, and then when I pull it up, it's gonna bring my connector up with it. All right, let me reroute where this hose is going down, and then I'll show you guys the end result. Okay, I just pulled it up through the A-pillar area, and that's looking pretty good now. So all I have to do is take the tape off and then rearrange my wires and then put the trim on and then see how it looks coming out. So let me do that and then I'll show you afterwards. All right, so let me show you what I did. So I just have a random car outlet power cable. You can use any type of cable that has some rigidity to it that you can put through. So I ended up feeding the power cable in through this grommet, and I made a little cut hole there so that way the cables can go through. So I pushed that through, then I taped my AEM sensor cord to it, and then I pulled it through the interior, and then I took the tape off, and then you saw what I did whenever I did the same thing. I taped that same cable to my boost gauge vacuum line, and I pulled it up through the A-pillar area. So when I was bringing this power cable back out, I needed to bring my my vacuum line from my boost gauge. So I just taped the vacuum line to here, and then I just pulled out the end on the other side. And then now I can run my secondary boost gauge, and then I have my AEM harness ran too. So I'm gonna untape that, and then yeah, we'll wrap this up. All right, guys, I'm back in the engine bay. So this run, I will be completely honest with you, it was very tedious, especially being inside of this small storage unit where I can't open up my door fully. If I would have had like a bunch of light in here, if I could put my door open and then put my seat all the way back, it would have been a lot easier. So I digress. I'm going to run the sensor across the engine and then follow it through the driver's side body wiring harness grommet. As you saw, I cut a hole, like a hole in it. There's like this extra little nipple that pops off of it, and I just cut that, which I will show you in the picture right here. And I told you about the whole thing. Basically, you just need to snake your AEM harness in. You can do this with anything, boost gauge, whatever, vacuum lines, any kind of sensors that need to come through that you don't want to bring on the passenger side and drag it across the dashboard. You can do it this way. There's extra space on there, but it's tight getting in there. I do have to extend the AEM harness by a few feet. So coming up through here, I still have maybe 3 feet of cable. Stupid light. So I have it coming up over by my clutch reservoir, and there's the end of the cable. I'm gonna run it up through here and then just follow the engine harness that comes all the way over. And then I'll be able to have enough slack to throw it down here. It's basically gonna follow the stock one. That's basically all I have left to do in terms of running that harness for the gauge. But yeah, so what I'm going to do, you guys seen me do all kinds of wiring stuff in the past, so I'm not gonna show any of that. I will tell you the gauge wire that I'm using. It's going to be an 18 gauge wire. 18 to 20 you can use for this. Doing it this way on the safe side, have about 4 to 5 extra feet of wire to extend the harness. So that way it's not tight. You can tuck it and, you know, sort it, route it wherever you want. But anyway, I've been talking way too much. So I'm gonna get back to work, do that stuff, and I will update you guys whenever I get that stuff done. Let me get into that. All right, and there we go, guys. The harness is done. Came out really good, matches the rest. I used up the rest of this heat shield sheath, whatever you want to call it. I think I'm gonna call it there for the night, guys. We'll catch up on day 4. So I'll see you soon. Hey, what's up, guys? Sloth King here. It's day 4. getting that AEM oil pressure sensor routed and plugged in. I got all the parts in that I need. Right here, I finally have my adapter. Had to order this brass adapter from Amazon. I'm finally gonna install that, and then what else? And then to get power to my gauge, I figured out the easiest way to do it. I'm just gonna use a fuse tap. Basic thing for a fuse tap, you plug it into the fuse that you want, and it supplies power to the other side since there's another adapter, another fuse input there. And all I need is a 5 amp fuse. So I'm just gonna plug it in there. All I need is power and a ground. And I think we can start it up and try to get some oil pressure. And then we can test it out, see if it works. I hope it works, because this has been a very long video, and I hope I can trim it down for you guys pretty well. But enough talking like I usually do, and let's jump right into this. Okay guys, so let's start out with how to put this thing on. So it's not mandatory, but it's recommended. Whenever you put these on, I prefer to use a little bit of pipe thread sealant, and this isn't just like the one that you wrap around. It's a little liquidy, which is good. You don't want a whole lot. It's not gonna get into your oil system or anything like that. This is just like a backup to ensure that you don't have any leaks. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on, put it onto the threads. We don't need a whole lot, like I said before. Same thing with this one. Just don't clog the sensor area and you should be good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the adapter on first, tighten it down before I put the sensor on. I think I'll have enough room to have the factory one come over here and then have the aftermarket one stick off. But if I don't, I'll just flip it. Just get your 12mm wrench and just get it tight. This is a 19 that fits on here. I think this will fit on. Yeah. Okay. So I know that's pretty dang tight, but I had to move it around so I can try to get the sensor on. See if this will fit. I think that might just work out. Now let me get my factory one. Put it on the end here. Make sure that I have clearance for everything. I think it's far enough away from the exhaust manifold where my boot won't melt. I just have an adjustable wrench here to just put on here. All right, just to update you guys, I did move the sensors around. Really can't get any light in there, but there's the two sensors. I flipped it around. There's a lot more room with the AEM one facing towards the turbo and having the factory one go down. So for the Supra, I'm going to be putting it in the number 12 slot, which is the ignition. So whenever the ignition is on, it should supply power to my gauge. But if that doesn't work, I'm going to put it in the first slot, which is to power my regular gauges up here. And that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my power wire in here already, crimp it. That way I can run it wherever I need to down underneath there, and then just plug this in, and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. All right, so here's how everything looks. I have my fuse tap in. It's on number 12, which is at the very end there. And then I have my power wire coming over here. Here's my AEM harness. So red goes to red. And then here's my ground, which I have this little guy on here. And then I'm going to just ground it on this part of the body. There's a screw that goes through there, and that's how I'm grounding some other switches too. And then afterwards, I'm gonna tuck everything back in here. And if you don't have a standalone computer, you don't need to use the brown or white ones. So if you do have a standalone, that's how you can hook it up for the computer to read it, I guess. But yeah, I'm just gonna run all these wires behind the carpet, tuck them back in here, and then I can just wrap up putting all the plastics back together, and then we should be set. We should be done with this. All right, and here's how everything looks afterwards. Fuse tap, ran behind the carpet. AEM gauge harness going up there. And then I got my grounds right here. And we're all set. Everything looks clean. Okay guys, so I'm not going to fully start the engine. I'm just going to put the battery back in, pull the EFI fuse, and then just crank it until I get some oil pressure. That way I can check to make sure the gauges work properly and to make sure I don't have any leaks over here at the sensor port. Because I'm pretty sure with like 6 PSI, that will be plenty to just see if anything's leaking. I got the EFI fuse unplugged, so let's see if I have power to this gauge. Hey, look at that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and crank it. All right, so you saw it, it peaked up. See it there on the dash too. So it peaked at 10, and then over here, it looked like it was at 5. Let's go check for an oil leak. It looks good. No oil. Sweet. There's a lot of antifreeze just down in there. All right, guys, I got everything all hooked back up. Let's start her up. Wow. Did the battery really just die? All right, so the negative battery terminal wasn't tight enough. Let's do this. Oh, it's looking good. Looking good over here. There's just a bunch of coolant on the turbo that's burning off. Wow, that is a lot of smoke. All right, so the new gauge, 39. Right around there on that one. Not too far off. All right, so I'm gonna let it warm up for a minute. Just gonna wait for it to idle down. It's now at idle, so it's idling around 13 to 15. Really close to the gauge, like the stock one. This just looks cool. This looks cooler because it's old. 0 leaks and no more smoke. So yeah, guys, that wraps everything up. I'm gonna put my interior back together, clean everything up. I might take this for a drive. It's a nice day out. But anyways, I hope you guys found this video helpful. Hopefully it's not too long. If it is, my apologies. If you guys installed this in your Supra or any type of gauge, let me know. Tag me in on your post on Instagram at Sloth King Garage. Give me a follow. If you want to keep watching more builds on this Supra and then also my 4Runner and any other cars I come across, go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe to see more videos like these. Peace. Oh no. Get back here. There we go. Now you can see me. Oh god, it's so bright. It's like the surface of the sun. I say a lot. It's really annoying. And then I don't know what size this actually is. I just have a pair of adjustable wrench. Wow. And that was terrible English.